You're listening to The Observing Eye. Pirate radio for the mind. Coming at you fresh from the computer hell cabin.
Hello, you beautiful lot. It's Friday, the 4th of August, 2023, and you're listening to episode 25 of The Observing Eye. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new, welcome aboard. As always, I like to begin these episodes with a brief moment of reflection. So, let's take a moment to think about the good things that have happened this week. And now a moment for the not so good. I wasn't entirely sure what to discuss this episode. It's been a few weeks since the last podcast. Appreciate they've been a little scatty of late, but as have I. I have realised, however, that it's been a year since I started this endeavour of The Observing Eye, both from the whole writing point and then moving into this podcast. So I thought rather than me talking about some topic of self-improvement or psychology or philosophy, we'd have a bit of a recap, a bit of a reflect upon where we are, what we've talked about, where we're going, what the point of all this is. And the cat starts. Look at this. Every time, literally, I fed her moments before I started the podcast and she starts sitting here singing. Hello. Hello, yes. Yeah, so let's have a reflection. Apologies, there's a slight cat interruption, but yeah, let's have a reflect on where we are. I never thought, genuinely, I think there was a part of me that was thinking about the consistency of this, because initially it was a test. It was a test to see if I could be consistent in creating content. And I think generally, I would say I've passed. There's been some weeks where I've forgotten. And you know what's interesting? The reason I forget is purely because my head is totally in something else. And then it'll get to the end of the Friday when the podcast would normally go out, and I'll think, shit, I didn't do a podcast today. But then I got other stuff going on the weekend and nothing, I missed the window. I missed the launch window and no podcast arrives. So what have I talked about this past year? I know it's gone quick. It doesn't feel like I've been doing this for a year. It feels like I started a month ago. But yeah, such is the nature of time. Time is something we've discussed fairly extensively. I'm just going through. I've got the list of all the odd podcasts here. I'm just having a look. And yeah, so there's a lot of things around, initially talking around perception and things like stress and self-awareness, a lot of self-compassion, strategic thinking, internal conflict, the pillars of purpose. That sounds ominous. I can't even remember what I said in that one. Navigating self-development in a crisis. Can selfishness be selfless? There's a lot there. There's a lot of content there. And I partly surprised myself. When you get imposter syndrome and you go into this stuff and you're like, people come and say to you, your podcast is quite good, David. I get messages from people occasionally on like LinkedIn and stuff. And they're like, oh, we like your content. It's very good. We like listening to it. We look forward to it coming out each week. And part of me goes, fucking really? Really? I'm just talking shit into the internet, mate. Like, what is this? But it's nice to hear. And I'm glad that there's been some use. There's been some use for people for this stuff. So the last episode was Speak Your Truth. And I guess, yeah, like today I kind of want to carry on a little bit around speaking truth, but I also want to look forwards a little bit to where we're going. I'd really like to hear from some of you out there who actually listen to this. Because, if you don't listen to this, you're not going to hear this question anyway. So that's kind of a moot question, isn't it? But I'd love to hear what you'd like to hear, essentially. Are there things that you would like me to discuss in future that you would feel beneficial to hear about? I often find when it comes to doing this podcast, I am kind of clambering around a little bit to think of something to talk about. It's my experience that I generally work best when people are asking me questions about things and I can fill in the gaps and go off on a particular topic. Because it's tricky trying to sit here and think, well, what am I going to talk about this week that's in a sort of vein of psychology or philosophy or self-development that I haven't necessarily done before. And after 30 episodes, I do get concerned I'm going to repeat myself. So what can I talk about that I haven't talked about before that's going to be useful? And it's generally something that will pop into mind off the back of something I've come across or listened to in the week that I thought was interesting. So I'm going to hand the floor over to all of you. And if you go onto the Substack, there is a comment section. So the Substack is theobservingi.substack.com. And associated with this podcast, if you find it on there, you'll see a comment section and you can add comments, funnily enough, because it's a comment section. Just put things in there that you want to hear about, and I will endeavor to make episodes based on your requests. Genuine requests. Don't ask me how to make porridge. It's not, what shade do I like my toast when it comes out of the toaster? Do I have butter in the fridge or out of the fridge? Well, out of the fridge, clearly. But yeah, questions like these are not questions. I mean, put them in. I'll happily answer them in the comments, but I'm not making a podcast about where I place butter. So yeah, things that are going to be useful to you that you feel you need some direction in, or you just want to hear my thoughts on, put some comments in that Substacker and I will make content just for you. Just for you. Think of the service that is. Personalized content straight from the ether into your ears. Yeah, so let's try something. So if you want to do that, get engaged with that. Put some comments in, and I will create episodes based on what you would like to hear. What else is coming up in the future? I really want to get back into writing articles. I love doing this podcast, but I miss writing content. And I think since I've been doing the podcast, the content writing part of the Substack has significantly taken a significant dive, however you want to phrase that. So that's something that I want to bring back in, and I'm going to be working on a bit more consistently in future. Hopefully the article will kind of marry up with the podcast, but it might not. It might just be a blurb of something that I've thought of. And I'm thinking maybe not necessarily just a large amount of content, just, some thoughts and ideas and things, a little bit of a brain explosion onto the page, That might be useful or interesting. We'll see. As an experiment, we'll see what happens. Again, I am very open to having ideas from all of you about what you would like me to write about as well. So please leave your comments somewhere on the Substack and I'll pick them up. And we can have a look at writing some stuff that might be useful for you as well. Next week, just to warn you, just to prepare you for next week. Next week, there will not be a podcast because it is my birthday next week and I am away doing things. I am not at the desk with all of this rig set up necessarily. So there will be another void, another absence next week. But the week after, I will be back, and I will be back with a vengeance, getting content out there into the Substack as often as is humanly possible, and hopefully not losing any of the quality on the side of that, if there's any quality to begin with. So that's that should be cool. I always find birthdays to be a bit of a weird time for reflection, especially as one grows older and death approaches. I think the older I get, the more this idea, and I've talked about this extensively in previous episodes and in articles and all sorts, but this idea of memento mori, the time is not finite, not for us anyway, maybe for the cosmos, and that all time matters, and that the sense of urgency that comes with that, I feel like that grows with every passing year. But this particular time of year, when it is my birthday, that sense of the urgency of time becomes ever more magnified. And I find myself spending a lot of time reflecting and contemplating on what I'm doing and where I'm going. So for me, a lot of people, like, it's the new year. The new year is a time for change. But for me, it's like it's birthday generally, because that's a bigger personally a bigger transition. Another is when we mark off another year, and I just start to consider all the things that I'm doing and maybe trimming some stuff that I don't like and starting new things that I'm interested in. It's definitely a time of change. I find that. So what am I reflecting on? What am I changing this year as part of that whole celebratory act of self-reflection? There must be a cake for this. Reflect upon thyself, for soon thou shalt die. No, you know what I mean, without being too tragic and maudlin. Getting old is good. I enjoy getting old. The older I get, the less of a fuck I give. And it's a highly liberating experience. I recommend it to everybody. What was I saying? I was saying about, contemplating things. Oh, yeah, what am I doing? Things am I going to do? What am I going to change? Well, yeah, more content things. I'm getting really into teaching meditation as well. That started in the new year. So there's a significant change of direction in getting involved in all of that, and that's been deeply rewarding. And yeah, there's a lot more to go, but it's been an interesting experience. I'm thoroughly enjoying that, and I think that's something I'm gonna be continuing with aplomb, essentially. I kind of want to, I really want to write some fiction, because it's been ages, it's been years and years since I've written anything that has been like, fun. Just sitting down and writing and letting all of that weird shit in my head fall onto a page. I think it would be good now, because I'm old and I'm not giving a fuck so much. The biggest issue I found when I used to write when I was younger, and I think partly, which is why I stopped doing it, because I used to write all the time. I used to do so much writing. Why I stopped it was I was far too self-critical and self-editorial. And I'd start something and I'd never finish it. I'd get like tens of thousands of words into these stories and they'd never get done. And I just leave them. And then when I go back to them, I like maybe 6 months, a year later, I think, oh, well, I don't remember what the plot is. I don't remember what was happening. So I'll just start again. And you get stuck. One gets stuck, not you get stuck. One gets stuck. I get stuck in this cycle of just repeatedly going back and starting old content again, like slightly differently. But then part of me would look back and consider, well, was that not just like a massive act of procrastination? Because there's that old thing around the fear of success, isn't there? Well, what if actually I do become like a writer? What will I do? What will my world be? Or that thing of that fear of rejection. If I don't put it out into world, no one can reject it, so it's fine. I can exist in that sort of limbo state between knowing and unknowing. So yeah, maybe just getting back into some writing. I won't put that on the Substack. I'll do that somewhere else. But if it happens, when it happens, I'll put some signposts out, and those of you who are interested can go and have a dive in, and we'll see what happens. So yeah, it's small changes, not much I'm thinking of, but to this year, this coming. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I think you can probably guess if you've listened. You guess roughly anyway, if you've listened to these podcasts before. And if you can just hear the general jadedness and cynicism in my voice, then you will know that I am that young. But yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. I like reflecting on things. And I always take time off around my birthday from work and everything, because I think it goes well with the reflective headspace that I find myself in. Just disengaging from everything and spending some time internally, or just wandering around outside in a place where there are no screens and I cannot be summoned by my Samsung or whatever else needs my attention. So there is that, at least. But yeah, so I think that's it. That's all I've got to say this week. A little bit of reflection, a little bit of I don't know, just rambling around subjects, I guess. Not too much concrete stuff, but a little bit of talk around change and around direction. So hopefully that's been useful, at least, or at least entertaining or interesting or whatever. Maybe you just like listening to my voice. Some people do. But yeah, that's it for this week, everybody. Wishing you a wonderful weekend. I will be back. What is the date of the Friday that I will be back? I'll be back on Friday, the 18th of August, with some more content and some other stuff, and hopefully a few little surprises for you as well. So wishing you all a fabulous weekend. Do something that you love this weekend. Do someone that you love this weekend. Just have some fun. Take some time out and chill. Much love, everybody, and I'll catch you soon.
You've been listening to The Observing Eye. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope that you found it useful. And if you're interested in any more of my writings or work around psychology and philosophy and general day-to-day living, please go and take a look at my Substack, which is theobservingeye.substack.com, and that's I as in the letter, not I as in the gelatinous organ through which you see. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll see you soon.